this is Judy from Patterns for Pirates, and today we're going to be showing up the zip fly in the Janet jeans. Zip flies can be kind of intimidating if you've never sewn one before, but it's not anything difficult, it's just a lot of steps. So if you take it one step at a time, you'll be good. I also picked this particular method of putting in the zip fly because I thought it would give you a really beautiful finish, even for a beginner. We're gonna do this stitching right here, one of the first steps, so that it's not all bulky and it's really easy to get a really beautiful stitching right here. Also, we're going to be leaving this open until the end so that you can get a really smooth finish from the zip fly to the rest of your pants, even if you're a beginner. So grab your pieces and get ready to be super proud of your first zipper fly, or maybe it's not your first, but you're going to be really proud of how beautiful it comes out in the end. Let's get started.
Up first, we have to prep these fly pieces. This is the fly facing. We have interfaced both the fly facing and the zip guard. And we are going to finish off some of these edges. So the long curvy edge and the long straight edge on the zip facing gets finished off. And then we're going to stitch this together, right sides together, stitch along the bottom curvy part, which is a normal and straight stitch, 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can finish these off with a serger like me, or you can use a zigzag or overcast stitch on your sewing machine, whatever you prefer. We're going to trim and clip around this curve. I'm just going to use pinking shears. It's the quickest and easiest method. We're going to flip it right sides out, and we're going to take it and give it a good press. Now we're going to finish off the long edge right here, again using your serger, zigzag, or overcast stitch, whatever your preference is. We're going to finish off this front crotch curve. You can go ahead and finish off both the left and right sides together, or just the left side, which we'll be working with first. We're going to need the wearer's left leg first. And see, I did the front little small patch pockets on mine here. This is the front piece though. Alright, so we're going to take our zip facing and we're going to put it right sides together to the left. You must cut your zip facing with the fabric up, and if you did, then it will only go right sides together to your left side, which is correct. If you're looking at your pieces and you think mine doesn't look the same, make sure you cut your zip facing with the fabric right sides up. All right, now we're going to stitch this just under the 1/2 inch seam allowance. So about 3/8 of an inch of a seam allowance here. Just from the bottom all the way to the top. Do want to make sure you keep your seam allowances really nice and even and precise on all the stitching on your zipper. I'll let you know when it's more important and when it isn't. This one right here, very important. Keep it nice and precise. So we're going to move to the iron and we're going to press this seam open, just like this. And then we're also going to press the entire zip facing towards the back, just like this. And here is an important little detail. When you press it to the back, you do not want to press it with the seam on the side like this. You want to roll the seam all the way to the back. This will take up the rest of your seam allowance. So that little 1/8 of an inch that we didn't use, we're going to use it right now to roll towards the back so that we don't see the seam at all from the front or even from the side. So you should be able to see the seam line on the back, just like this. I'm going to continue pressing our 1/2 inch seam allowance down the rest of the curve as well. You might need to snip into your curve to make it lie flat. That's okay. Now that we have a nice clean press and our seam is to the back, just like this, cannot see it from the front at all, we're going to top stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from the front. So just where the fly is. You can start at the top or bottom, it doesn't matter. I always like to top stitch where I can see the markings on my foot. So I always go from the bottom to the top, but whatever you prefer, it does not matter. So about 1/8 of an inch away. You can do it even tighter, like 1/16 of an inch. You just want to make sure to keep it consistent when you're doing close top stitching. You want it to always be the same. All right, we're gonna grab our zipper. Mine is extra long. I'm gonna have to shorten it. You can shorten it right now. It needs to be about the size of your zip facing here. It should have the tape at the top, so you have a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the top. And then you also need a 1/2 inch from the bottom here, okay? You don't want your top stitching to go through any zipper teeth, so it needs to stop about 1/2 inch up. So you can shorten it now if you want to. I'm gonna shorten mine after I attach it. Does not matter, whatever you prefer. What we're doing now is we're aligning the right side of our zipper tape to the fold. And our zipper is facing down against the zipper facing. We're not going to stitch where we're pinning right here. This is just where we want it aligned. So again, that 1/2 inch at the top. Most zipper teeth have that 1/2 inch built in, so you just can align your zipper tape up there, but you do want to make sure. Get it nice and precise against the fold right here. And we're just pinning it to hold it in place. We are not going to stitch down where these pins are. All right, now that it's pinned, what we're going to do is we're going to stitch on this side. So I'm going to grab only the zipper and the 5 facing. I'm going to flip it so that the actual pant piece is out of the way. I'm only stitching through the zipper tape and the fly facing. You don't need to move, you don't need to change to a zipper foot yet. Okay, so you just need to stick your foot as close as you can and stitch through the zipper tape and the zipper facing. Nice straight stitch all the way down. Just like this. You do want your stitching even, just so it looks pretty. But you do not need to change to your zipper foot just yet. You can if you prefer, but it's not necessary yet. There we go. Now we can take the pins out. Again, they were just there to make sure we had our zipper in the perfect spot. Okay, since I didn't shorten my zipper before, I'm going to take the time to shorten my zipper now. I'm going to go ahead and show you how, just in case you need to shorten a zipper. It's really easy, especially on a plastic zipper. We want about 1/2 inch from the bottom of our zipper facing here. So I'm just marking a little bit with a chalk mark. We're going to make sure we're only stitching through the zipper, nothing else. And we're going to do a really wide zigzag. Mine goes to a 7 width, so that's what I do all the way up to the 7. And then I make the stitch length very, very short. About 0.5 is normally what I use. I start just above my marking and always hand crank the first few stitches just to make sure, extra sure, that your needle isn't going to hit the zipper teeth and isn't going to bust your needle. So I just go back and forth until I think it's a nice thickness that it's never going to bust, the zipper isn't going to get busted through. It's going to be a nice little new stop. Then I just trim it across. Once I trim it across, I do go into the middle and make sure there is no zipper teeth under this stop. If you have a metal zipper, this is a little more time consuming because you can't just trim off the metal teeth. You have to kind of pry them off with a plier. So it does take a little bit longer with the metal teeth. If you're doing metal or plastic, doesn't matter. You want to grab a lighter and you're just going to hit the zipper tape with a flame very quickly. What that does is when it burns it, it melts it a little bit and it creates this little seal so that your zipper tape doesn't fray and it will last you. That's it. All right, next up, you're going to grab your tracing guide. I cut mine out in a cardstock and then I just traced it with my chalk. You can do it with whatever thing you want. Now, here's an important step. You need to baste the bottom of the zipper tape down and out of the way. If your zipper teeth are longer than mine and are in the stitch line that you just traced, you need to fold up the unstitched edge so that it does not get caught in your top stitching. I cut mine pretty short, close to the zipper stop, so it was not in the way. But when I use an adult one that I do not have to shorten, that's the exact right size, I flip it up because those zipper teeth are a bit long. You do not want to stitch your unsewn zipper tape down right now. Okay, once you go down around your stitch mark, you're going to go up the same stitch line that you already did on the first top stitch, just a couple stitches, I do about 2, and then using your sewing machine foot on this left side, you're going to follow your first line of stitching back around for your second row. This makes it really nice and easy to get it a really beautiful even stitching. The reason why you want to baste that zipper tape down along the bottom is sometimes if you don't, they can get stuck and kind of mess with the feed dogs and you'll get a skip stitch or something like that. You don't want that. This stitching is really obvious. I'm so sorry about hitting the camera. It's so difficult not to hit the camera when it's in between your face and the sewing machine, y'all. But now I can unpick this basting. It is important to baste it real quick because you want your stitching to be beautiful on this. It's really noticeable if your stitching is uneven or you have skip stitches there. So one reason why I chose this method is because you get to do this top stitching early on. Again, you don't want this bottom of your zipper tape to get stuck in the top stitching. You won't need that to be free. All right, grab your prepped zipper guard and we are going to pin that to our unsewn side of our zipper tape. Just edge to edge, pinning it together. You only want to pin through the zipper guard and the zipper tape. And this, of course, is why you can't get that zipper tape stuck in your top stitching because you need to stitch it to this side. So that's why we take the time to baste it down so it doesn't get stuck in your top stitching and so it doesn't make any skip stitches or anything like that. All right, now we're gonna stitch these two together. The seam allowance isn't too important. You do not need to get it tight to the zipper tape at all. I sew along right along the edge. I mean, maybe about 1/8 of an inch. I don't change my regular foot to a zipper foot. You just want to attach these two. You can even use a basting stitch here. This is not a final stitch. It's just attaching the zipper guard to the zipper tape so it's nice and even and in the correct spot for the next step. Okay, we're getting there. It's starting to look like a real zip fly. We are going to grab our right front leg now. If you haven't already finished off this front crotch curve along with your left side, you can do that now. I obviously haven't, so I'm going to do that. Again, you can do it with a serger, a zigzag stitch, or an overcast stitch on your sewing machine. We're going to be pressing this back 1/2 inch along the entire front and crotch curve. There are a few places where you might need to snip into your seam allowance. One is at your zipper facing or zipper guard end. This just makes it move a little bit easier when you are stitching these last 2 stitches. Okay, you don't want to snip all the way through your seam allowance, just a little bit. I do about 1/4 of an inch, about what that serger seam allowance is. And then depending on your size, and if you needed to grade and whatnot, how curvy your crotch curve is, you might need to snip into this curve a little bit to get it to lay nice and even. Okay, I did on baby girls. She has to grade quite a few sizes, from her length to her hip to her waist. She's not easy, y'all, but that's okay. That's what sewing's for, right? So you press it 1/2 inch to the wrong side all down this front seam. You really want a nice clean press here. It's going to make sewing these next couple steps much easier if you have a really crisp fold line. Alright, so unfold, and we're just going to stitch our unstitched zipper tape, the one with the guard, to our main pant. This is not a spot where you need to be super precise on your seam allowance. Just stitch it along the edge. It does not need to be as close to the zipper tape. You can see I still haven't put my zipper foot on. You just are stitching them together. You do want to make sure your edges are lined up perfectly. I stitch it very closely, about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, just right in tight so that I don't have to move into my zipper foot. Okay, now we're going to pin our left side up and out of the way, and then we're going to use our folded crease to get a perfect, beautiful finish on this right side. So your folded should be kind of snugged up against the tape, but not so close and touching the zipper teeth, or else you won't be able to get your zipper pull down and up super easily. It should be an even distance all the way down from the zipper teeth, and you just want to pin it nicely and beautifully, exactly how you want it to look. And then we're going to top stitch this down. This is the step where you are finally going to need your zipper foot to get it nice and close to the zipper teeth. At least I like the zipper foot. I like it close enough to the teeth that a zipper foot is necessary. I like a really tight top stitch here. I do about 1/8 of an inch, maybe even 1/16 of an inch from that folded line. So I snug my zipper foot up right against the teeth, and that's how close I top stitch. Again, I'm so sorry. I try so hard not to hit the camera, but it is hard when I'm trying to be precise, and my instinct is to lean forward closer to the machine. You are going to have to move your zipper pull. So I like to start with it unzipped, and then once I get too close to the bottom, you want to leave your needle down, lift your presser foot up, move your zipper pull, and then put your zipper foot back down, all with the needle down. You don't want that needle up, or you're going to get kind of a skipped, wonky stitch. So stitch just until the bottom of the fly, and we are almost done, y'all. We're almost done. It's looking nice and beautiful so far. You can unpin that, and you can see your left side should overlap the zipper and your top stitching and cover all of your right side. So you have both your seam allowances pressed under. What we're going to do is just overlap your seam allowances very precisely and pin the rest of the way down the crotch. You're going to start sewing from the bottom, so you want your pins going this way. This is a step where you're going to want to take your time. You want to make sure your seam allowance is really precise. If you need to repress your seam allowances, take the time to do that. This stretch denim held a crease really nicely for me, so I didn't need to. This is where you're going to get a really nice smooth transition from your fly to the bottom of your crotch. A lot of zip constructions have you sew this seam first before putting in the zip, but I find for beginners this is an easier method to getting a really beautiful finish. I like to hand baste these together because it's so curvy and because I really want it to look perfect. I don't want any little gathers or anything like that. A quick hand baste only takes 20 or 30 seconds, and it's going to hold all of my pieces in place even when I remove my pins as I'm stitching. So don't be afraid to just throw in a couple of stitches. You don't need a ton. I think I did 4 or 5 stitches here really quickly, and then it's going to hold it in place for me, and I'm not going to have to worry about anything moving around. There we go. We're going to start at the bottom here, and we're going to top stitch really close to that top folded edge. So you're going to want to do the same width that you did on your other close top stitching. So like the very first top stitch we did on the zipper facing to the left side, you're going to want to match that. So I usually do somewhere between 1/8 of an inch and 1/16 of an inch. I changed back to my regular sewing machine foot because I'm more comfortable with it. Just a nice straight stitch here on your close top stitching. You're going to stitch from the bottom all the way up to the zip, and we're going to continue stitching until the inner stitch line. Get nice and close here so you can see what I'm talking about. Once we get to this top inner line of our stitching, so right here, we're going to stop with our needle down, pivot, there we go, and we're going to take just a couple of stitches. I take 2 on a normal stitch length, and then pivot again, and we're going to go straight down, and we're going to use, again, just like we did on the fly top stitching, we use the left side of our foot as a guide all the way down, so it's nice and even all the way down, and it's nice and even with the fly stitching we did as well. All right, can remove that hand basting. It's nice and quick and easy. I did it pretty loose, only a few stitches, and you can press this again if you need it. You have a beautiful fly zip now, y'all. I can't wait to see everyone's. I really hope this method proves to be nice and easy for everybody. There is one last thing I like to do. Because this method does the top stitching and everything separately, your zip guard is not sewn down in any way. So I like to do a bar tack about right here. I like to do it after the curve, just on the very bottom of the straight part. A bar tack is a really short, narrow zigzag stitch. Okay, what it does is it just keeps that fly guard from flopping around. It'll never open up and go towards the right side. It'll always stay to the left. Some methods have you stitch that bottom part. This one doesn't, so I like to take the time to do a little quick bar tack to keep it from flopping around. I go from the inside stitch line to the outside stitch line, and that's it. That's all you need is a little quick stitch, and now this zip guard will never flop around to the other side when you're pulling them on and off. And you're done. You have a beautiful fly zip. I cannot wait to see yours. I hope this method was easy for you, and don't forget to share them. I want to be proud of you too.